Once again, back it's the incredible Ranimal. How's everybody doing? This is a Thursday live stream. Welcome to the Recount Commentaries. I am your host, MagMongoSlade. Rest in peace to our good buddy, Darren Gordon-Hill. Um, Still very sad, still very sad, but he's going to live on through the music that he made for the channel, which is great. But how is everybody else doing? What is on tonight's agenda? Well, I didn't write an agenda because, as usual, I decided to go work out at like 7:20. And since I do about 30 minutes, 40 minutes, I don't take time to like write stuff down. Especially since I had takeout for dinner. I'm feeling really fat. I had hamburgers and French fries. Hey, I need my burgers, man. I need my French fries, man. I promise I might eat lighter tomorrow. I'm just gonna go to Kroger after work tomorrow and see what I can scratch up. Probably some tabbouleh. I might get like a sandwich or something. But Meltzer said what? Put on Twitter and short discussion between Meltzer and Alvarez that I think we're going to get into. And then we're also going to talk about some other things I saw floating around. The guy running TNA is discussing about the WWE TNA partnership and the potential for doing things during WrestleMania weekend. I guess we'll discuss that. And this garbage story that has been floating around about what WWE thinks about AEW's injuries. We'll talk about that too. It literally doesn't make any sense. It's stupid more than anything. But I guess we're going to have to deal with that. I have finished Dragon Ball, the manga. And I feel like I've, improved my Dragon Ball knowledge considerably. So that's a good thing that I've done on the non-wrestling front. I spent almost $200 on comic books. Then I had 5 days off, and I carved through so much stuff at that point, especially the floppies. I'm about to start not having floppies at all, bro. Like the Spawn, I've been reading King Spawn and Gunslinger Spawn, and let me tell you that since they had the big event, which was the the big event where they crowned the new king of hell or the new queen of hell, and she shut off all the Spawn's powers. Both of those series has slowed up tremendously since. Like King Spawn, I don't even understand why it still exists. Like the whole thing was supposed to be about Al Simmons' journey to the throne of hell or whatever, and then they curveball us, and he's not the king of hell anymore. He didn't become the king of hell. Spoilers, but the damn thing is still called King Spawn. I'm probably going to give it probably 2 more issues before I cancel it. I think I'm gonna get to 40, then I'm gonna quit. But Gunslinger Spawn, I actually like, but it's been dragging for a while too. I'm about ready to cut that one off as well. Then I'll have no Spawn books. I'll probably only have one floppy series I'm actually reading, which would be Kaya. Which it's still fine. AJ3, how you doing? Waiting for some more people to come in. Some other people to speak, other people to come in, and then we'll get into Meltzer and Alvarez and what they're talking about. It ought to be fun. It ought to be interesting. It's only like a 2-minute clip. I would pull like the regular YouTuber and clip that joint every 10 seconds and talk for 10 minutes. I'm not going to do that. I did see that Grace Missionary Baptist Church or something like that. They had themselves a little powwow outside of Monday Night Raw and Money in the Bank over the weekend. It's a Canadian church that's similar to what's the church here that is kind of super crazy and they're very disrespectful. Geez, I can never remember what they're called.
For right now,
I'll come back to this. I want to find out what that church was called. It was like the Grace Church. Grace Church, WWE. Where is it? Where is it? I can't find it on. Well, I found it on YouTube yesterday. I can't find it now. Let's see, Toronto. I'll just take the word Grace out because maybe it's not a Grace church. Church WWE Toronto. GMBAC online. Is this it? Yes, it is. This is it. This is Grace Ministry Baptist Church in Toronto. They were harassing WWE fans outside of Money in the Bank. They got two over 40-minute videos. They just basically outside street preaching, which is, telling them to repent, talking about, abortion being sin and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't anything that I could really glean from this that I thought might be fun to talk about. It was just, traditional Christianity, the kind of aggressive, in-your-face Christianity that some of these churches frequent. And I know WWE was also targeted by another church recently, the Westboro Baptist Church, where they were supposed to also be boycotting outside of WWE. I think that's already passed, if I remember correctly, but I don't remember them actually doing anything. Yeah, it was at Kansas City. It was October. They're doing it in October. So the plan is for Westboro Baptist Church to boycott outside of the WWE Super Show in October. And this one is based off of the death of Owen Hart. So they're going to be outside from 6:30 to 7:15. And I'm not gonna lie, like I've read this. I'm just now looking at this because I'm pretty sure they did a. No, this was last year. So Monday, October the 10th, 2023, is when they did the boycott outside of WWE. October 14th. Okay. And they said this, despite this apparent curse on the wrestling industry, Stephanie McMahon expressed great desire to integrate LGBT storylines into WWE programming. That didn't happen, by the way. Apparently, Stephanie wasn't paying attention when she was growing up, as for decades, Vince had been a revolutionary force in sin integration. Shawn Michaels gyrating about, Heart Foundation prancing in pink, and Goldust. You can't get more LGBT than Goldust, for crying out loud. Do we even need to talk about Ref Rita Chatterton, Pat Patterson, Terry Garvin, and the famous Ring Boy scandal? Or the new 2022 allegations and investigations into millions of dollars in sexual harassment, hush money paid by Vinnie Mac himself? There is just no end to it. It's amazing that these people, they did their research at least. They're actually talking about things that actually occurred. I think they had another boycott this year, but churches now all of a sudden decide to boycott WWE is very strange. It seems to come out of nowhere. Like the company's been around all this time, and for them to now all of a sudden decide that they're going to start attacking WWE shows. Now they did do another one. It was Kansas City this year. Yep, it was March 13th, 2024. They boycotted outside of WWE again. This one was over Vince McMahon and his allegations. Paul Roma talking about sexual harassment. The lawsuit with Janelle Grant. and they write one of the. I always read like the third paragraph. It says, as many pointed towards depraved elements of WWE creative dating back decades, uh, we propose Exhibit A be adorable Adrian Adonis for some 80s style tranny perversion. Others deliberated over who knew what and when. We remind you that God neither sleeps nor slumbers and has not missed one iota of a detail. And they quote the Bible. It says, quote, the Lord looketh from heaven. He beholdeth all sons of men. Psalms 33:13. The eyes of the Lord are in every place, beholding the evil and the good. Proverbs 15:3. And the rest assured he, quote, will not at all acquit the wicked. So this was Westboro Baptist Church. Most notably is known for their uh, website, GodHatesFacts.com. This other site, however, is the Grace Missionary Baptist Church, which is in Toronto, apparently. And they were the ones camped out outside of Money in the Bank and other WWE shows preaching for what it seems like 90 minutes. I think if you combine the two videos they did, it's about 90 minutes. There's about 1,000 views, about 700 views between the two videos. One is 41 minutes, the other is 52 minutes. I tried to watch clips of these things, but it's just Christian guys yelling at random people, and those random people yelling back. And a lot of those people are making threats about beating up the Christians and all this kind of stuff. It's really aggressively stupid. You know, if I had one of those like Stitch and Adam type channels where I could sit down for 10 hours, I would go through this. But it seems like it might be very entertaining. But it's just Christian agitation of some. I mean, Toronto is a pretty demonic city, to be honest, but it's just Christian agitation of pro wrestling fans. WG Phil, how you doing, sir? We'll get to Cena in a second. It says, I thought the Westboro protest was due to Janelle Grant. Yes. The 2024 protest was Janelle Grant. The 2023 one was over Owen Hart. And Stephanie McMahon's promise of putting LGBT storylines in the product, which did not occur, by the way. I didn't watch the Bailey interview. I just watched the one clip where she talked about wanting to bring back Evolution. I guess we could talk about that at the end. But Bailey drinks a lot. She seems to be a fun-loving girl. Good old Auntie Pam. WG Phil says churches should boycott their own, considering most of them are pedophiles instead of WWE. Well, I'm just finding out that there's a whole lot of Christian denominations that are allowing female pastors and deacons and bishops, and I'm just kind of like, I don't know where that came from. Tell you, I ain't going to no church with no female pastor. WG Phil says, ironic churches want to boycott WWE or Vince despite the church being a hotbed for pedophilia, just projection. It's not just, the thing is, people get really tripped up about this whole pedophilia thing. The biggest issue in the church is that the pastors are often banging the parishioners. This is something that even Michael Eric Dyson talked about in one of his books. I forget which one it was, but even he did it. He admitted to doing it. These pastors are in a position of power, and they use that position of power to take advantage of their female parishioners. You know, there's a lot of guys who probably don't know it, but their wives are banging the pastor. That's where that stuff comes from when you see it in like Tyler Perry movies and soap operas, because this stuff is real, you know? And that's part of the reason why, some guys stop going to church, not just because of, female bishops and female pastors and stuff like that. I mean, that stuff's that stuff's inappropriate because, there should be no female pastors. But when you really take into consideration that a lot of the pastors are grifters and a lot of them are basically just pimps, I mean, it's a problem. Like the church as an institution has a lot of problems. Especially the black church. They really need some help. They really down bad. But I don't think pedophilia is that big of an issue in most churches. I think the biggest issue is pastors banging the parishioners. I think that's one of the bigger issues that we never really get around to talking about, which is why you probably see so many single mothers in these black churches because they banging the deacons and everything. All those dudes with like gold rings on their fingers and everything, driving lax, But I don't want to go down the why everybody shouldn't go to church route. I think people should do what's right for them. But I find it humorous, WG Fields says Christianity got so bad that Shawn Michaels left the church. He left the church? I didn't know that. That might be that progressivism right there, though. Simon says, just look out Pastor Lamont Whitehead. I hear he's doing 5 to 10 years for fraud. He did a live stream. There was a fake robbery. It's crazy. Wow. See, there was a lot of reasons why I stopped going to church. I stopped going to church when I was 20. I'm 40 now, man. Like I haven't been to church in 20 years. But there's like so many reasons I stopped going to church. But one of them ended up being when I started seeing pastors as frauds. You start seeing that everybody around them is broke except them. You start asking questions. You start finding out that the pastors are doing all kind of, bullying tactics, like, calling people out for not paying their tithes and all this kind of stuff. It's like, oh man, I don't know about this church thing, bro. Is it about God? Is it about money and sex and a bunch of other stuff? And the more you look at it, the worse it gets. There's a buddy, Chad O. Jackson. He's doing videos right now about liberation theology, James Cone and the Black Church. I never read the James Cone book myself, but I can tell you, having read about a lot of liberation theology, especially from Cornel West and Michael Eric Dyson, and about Al Sharpton, and about Jesse Jackson. All these people they're pimps, They play the race card. It's almost never about God or Jesus or anything like that. It's almost never about the actual religion, the Bible or anything. It's more about using the Bible to push politics, and usually racial politics. And that was another reason why I stopped going to church. It's just once the ball got rolling on me not going to church, I just found 100 reasons why I shouldn't go to church. The Bling Bishop, I heard about him too. Yeah, there's just so much of that stuff, man. But Westboro Baptist Church, Grace Missionary Baptist Church, or Grace Missionary, whatever. Boycotting Monday Night Raw. Very interesting stuff, man. Hopefully they got what they came for. I don't know what they came to look for, but we're almost 20 minutes into this thing now. I guess we can get started really with the crux of the show, which is let's talk about Meltzer and Alvarez and their commentary on AEW's contract year and WWE's contract year.
But right now, it's amazing because like WWE was such a pile of shit for years, just declined year over year, collapsing, and then all of a sudden it's
now. Let's talk about this for a second. He said WWE has been shit for years now, and he said collapsing. I would like for him to describe what was collapsing, because they were making record profits even during the pandemic. Remember, people got mad at them because they were making a profit during the pandemic and they were still making cuts to the roster, right? So was TV ratings declining? Yes. Was it? I think they have bounced back mostly now, which is good for the most part. And people didn't really like the product. I know people hated the product in 2019 and 2020. 2019 because it was just a terrible creative year, and WWE has quite a few of those. 2020 and most of 2021 were pandemic years, so I mean those things are going to be bad. But the discussion that the company was collapsing, I think that's overblown. Even when Vince got exposed, they were still making money. Hand over fist, they were still making money. So where does he get this idea that the company was right on the edge of destruction, and now they've turned it around that quick? I don't know. I think that's I call it the Triple H miracle theory, right? There's this theory out there that Triple H turned everything around with his great creative, his great ideas, even though he's pushing the exact same people Triple H was pushing the entire time. The production is better. That much is for sure. Some of the creative is better. It's different at least. But the shows are boring. The reason why people remember so much bad shit from like 2019 or whatever is because a lot of that stuff was very strange, and it was the company trying different things out. And now they're not really trying different things out. They're trying different things out in terms of production. But in terms of actual what they're doing on screen, they've been very, very conservative, only pushing the stars. They haven't made any new stars yet. They're trying with Solo, I guess, but they're just following whatever Paul and Roman and all those guys come up with. So they're not doing anything radical yet. They're not trying to make anybody yet, which is why I'm, not surprised. Even though I was mad about it, I'm not surprised Braun Strowman didn't win the Intercontinental title. Triple H has not gotten anybody over yet. He's put the belts on people that Vince McMahon would have put the belt on. You think Vince wouldn't have made Logan Paul the U.S. champion? He certainly would have. Sami Zayn was the Intercontinental champion 3 or 4 times before Vince left. Bayley, world champion 4 or 5 times before Vince left. He gave her out in the entire year of 2020 and 2021, really, to be a top girl. Like, what is Triple H doing that's that different? Even somebody like Nia Jax is somebody that Vince was pushing. Gunther was he was made the Intercontinental champion while Vince was still there. He probably wouldn't have had the belt that long. I think Vince probably would have flipped the belt sooner than Triple H did. But, Damian Priest was in matches with Bad Bunny and, stuff like that when Vince was there. So what hot new prospect did Triple H find that is causing the creative to go skyrocket? Vince went personally to Georgia to get Cody Rhodes to return. And then only thing CM Punk's return was, timing, because he got fired from AEW and the transition away from Vince. The stars basically aligned and Triple H got back one of the guys Vince wanted to come back. So I don't know. Let's get back into this thing.
Contract here, and magically they just their way up, and they signed this great deal, and then here we are with AEW. I mean, it's their contract year, and it's been a rough one. It's been a rough one.
It's been tough. They lost a lot of interest because, and I think most of it's because WWE got hot. And
I disagree. I don't think that AEW started to suffer because WWE got hot. That's not what I believe. I think AEW started to suffer for 2 reasons. 1, the situation with CM Punk. 2, tons and tons of injuries. AEW has been plagued with injuries. A lot of the guys that they brought in disappeared for months at a time. Danielson was gone for a long time. MJF was gone for a long time. Adam Cole is still gone. He's been gone almost a year. Britt Baker was gone for a long time. Now Edge is hurt. He's gone for a long time. We're going to talk about this in a minute. But it seems that AEW, when people get momentum, it's not sustained. You know, like there was a time where those injuries wouldn't have hurt them that bad, but now it seems like every injury pretty much takes a huge chunk out of the fan base. I don't think it's about WWE getting hot. I think the roster shakeup with Cody leaving, Punk leaving, Danielson on his last year. You know, some of the guys that were there in 2019, like Moxley and Jericho, they're 5 years older, lazier, if we're being honest. They're actually doing less. Fewer stars have stepped up. People are frustrated with the elite and tired of the elite. Kenny Omega has been gone for how long? Kenny Omega been gone? Has he wrestled this year? I don't think he's wrestled this year. And he's trying. Tony Khan is trying. You know, he's invested in the roster. He brought in Will Ospreay. He brought in Okada. He brought in Mercedes. He's going to bring in Ricochet. He's trying. But the sparkle is gone. I think a lot of it is people are bored with the creative. And people are disappointed in the massive amount of injuries. And the thrill is gone because Punk is gone. I think that we really, because it wasn't huge. It wasn't like a huge number that Punk was popping, but he was the only one drawing. Him and MJF, they were drawing numbers when they would do stuff together. When Punk left, it was such an acrimonious split that a lot of people left with him. A lot of the diehards left with him. You know? And that did a lot of damage to the company. It did a lot of damage to the brand. And the backstage drama is the number one reason why the company is in a slump. They have not appropriately apologized or made good with the majority of the audience because they sided with the guys who placate the minority of the audience. The CM Punk represented the majority of the audience. Even though I personally didn't like him, I liked him more than I liked the Elite. So you're telling me that CM Punk was actually trying to have some really serious pro wrestling with serious angles, draw money with different people. You know, he's working with Ricky Starks and, you know, he's trying to work with guys like Wardlow and MJF, and he's trying to do stuff with even established names like Moxley, but these guys are resistant. You know, he was a black sheep. Week after week, it was an issue. It started chipping away at the morale of the audience until finally things blew up and he got fired and the audience said, forget this. This is not the utopia that I thought it was. This is a wrestling promotion, no different than any other wrestling promotion. It's no different than WCW. No different than Vince McMahon's WWE. It's politics and bullshit. Our favorite guys are not being featured. Our favorite guys are not being pushed, which is always the case. So they go latch on to something else. But since they had done such a terrible job of finding new talent, and because they had wrecked New Japan by stealing all the top guys from there, like Jay White and Okada and such, there was nothing for them to fall back on. So now these guys have AEW or nothing. Because New Japan is in a slump too. It's in an even bigger slump than AEW is. These guys ain't got nothing going on. These guys don't even talk about New Japan anymore, which is sad, but not surprising. It was one of those flavor of the month kind of
thing. 18 to 34.
I'm sure that's the main reason.
Actually, that's the main reason. I will say, like, one thing is, as far as like, there's a lot.
He just said right there that WWE went back to the 18 to 34. Well, those people never really left. it never really left. Now that has gone up quite a bit, the 18 to 34s. But it has been mostly AEW losing that audience more than WWE gaining that audience. Now, they have gained it. I'm not going to say that they haven't. But AEW losing that audience was the biggest problem. And they were the ones doing blood and cursing and everything. And then they just coughed it up by, the big issue with CM Punk, and then instituting some rules, which, supposed to be advertiser friendly rules, like not cursing on TV and toning down the blood and some of that stuff, which I think people don't give enough credit to. People don't give enough credit to the institution of some basic rules into AEW and how that affected people's enjoyment of products. People were so used to guys bleeding every single week, that once it came in that guys would not be bleeding that much, they got too used to people on TV cussing every week, thumbtacks and barbed wire and fire on TV every week. And that stuff slowed down, and it was necessary to reset the company to what works. And I've seen the ratings, and the ratings aren't good for the most recent Dynamite. But apparently the Mariah May match actually drew a number. It had the highest rating of the night, if I remember correctly. And that's most likely because of the storyline between Mariah May and Toni Storm. So if you got invested in that story, you wanted to see if Mariah May, or was it going to be Willow, that was going to wrestle Toni at the pay-per-view. And you were rewarded handsomely if you held on and watched the rest of that match.
Criticisms of AEW, and many doubt. But the idea that, like, the TV isn't good, especially the last couple of weeks, like, the TV the last couple of weeks has been, at least
I would say the last 4 weeks has been vastly improved, I felt.
It's tremendous. No, the last 2 weeks of TV are two of the best TV shows that you'll see. I mean, they were just, like, for 2 hours, I mean, you had great wrestling, you had great angles, you had great promos, although the best promos are still on the internet for whatever reason. But
I think they're overusing the word great, because I'm missing all of this great stuff. I mean, there's a correlation. Let's take a second. Let's back up. MJF returned. All of a sudden, everybody's talking about how great promos are again. Well, he's a great promo. And then they decided they was going to put him with Daniel Garcia and Will Ospreay. And Will Ospreay is not a bad promo. And Toni Storm cut some really great promos in her feud against Mina Shirakawa. So that was, but at the top of the card, there hasn't been a lot of great promos. There haven't been any great swerve promos. There has been no great anything out of the Elite. So I don't know what they're talking about. Maybe, but these guys enjoy the in-ring promo, so I guess that's it. I really have not noticed what the hell they're talking about. Again, I watch this show every week. I don't understand where they get the word great from. There's been a couple of really good ones, very few great ones.
And you have focus on a lot of different stuff. They're building TV. They're building the TV matches. It's they're hitting on their what, one thing that is I do find really interesting though is that with NXT has turned it around by introducing new characters to the show.
They also turned it around by going mainstream with the Sexy Red stuff. They gave the company a new coat of paint in terms of creating an identity of NXT around the young, fresh talent. And yes, introducing some new talent has really helped the brand. the introduction of, let's say, Ethan Page, not Sean Spears, not at all, but some surprises here and there have really helped, because when people are typically interested in NXT when something that's out of the ordinary is occurring. That's how wrestling works. That's how TV works. That's how anything works. If something out of the ordinary is occurring, you have to set a standard. And once that standard is set, people like it, but then it becomes mundane, it becomes mediocre. And as long as you can be consistent, but not extremely successful, you throw something in there that's minor, it's going to get a lot of interest. You know, like when you take a rock and you throw it in a steel screen and it starts to ripple. That could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing. You don't know until you do it. What NXT did, they was producing a consistently solid show. Best wrestling show of the year. And then they started doing stuff. That's when they started pitching rocks in the screen. You know, returns, celebrities, title switches, you know, angles that are hidden. And they're doing it with their young talent, their fresh talent. Most of the time, it's the people who fresh out of the performance center. You can't complain with. They're just doing it right.
And you know, like they'll bring in guys from TNA. Can you imagine if AEW was bringing in these guys like Zach Wentz? I mean, the people are getting mad enough about, oh, we don't want any ROH guys on, and oh, this and that. If they were bringing in Zach Wentz and Joe Hendry, God, I like Joe Hendry and everything, but Jordan Grace and all this, in AEW, those fans were just crapping on it so bad. We don't want to see these guys, you know. And
well, here's the difference. He's trying to call the fans hypocrites, which is a good point. Sometimes when you pull people from the ether and they're not usual suspects on the program, that gets interest, like what I was just saying. WWE doing a collaboration with TNA. It helps both brands because it's something different. WWE doesn't typically allow other people onto their programming. So when they started doing it, it stood out. As opposed to AEW, who were doing that from the beginning. They were bringing in indie wrestlers and wrestlers from Japan and wrestlers from Mexico, and nobody knew who these people were, and there were so many of them. And you're like, what is this? What's going on here? When it comes to TNA, they haven't brought over that many people. Kazarian was in a battle royal. He was in and out. Nobody really even took too much time on him. Jordan Grace, she was in the Royal Rumble earlier this year, so it's not like they just brought her on and nobody knew who she was. She was at least introduced to everybody by being in the Royal Rumble. Zachary Wentz was on NXT 2 years ago. Everybody know, if you've been watching NXT, especially for a long time, you know he was a tag team partner with Wesley. So that is the most sensible crossover that you could do. It's not random. You brought Zachary Wentz back in the storyline with Wesley, and it dovetailed nicely with the storyline Wesley was involved with, wherein he was feeling down about himself. He didn't know where his solo career was going to go. He was ready to quit, and then his homeboys was there to have his back. That's relatable. And it just so happened it was in the middle of the story, the middle of the crossover. And the only other person that really do crossovers is Joe Hendry, who is super over on the internet. And yes, he's random because he has nothing to do with NXT, you know. But he's the only one that's been like really, really random. Dana Brooke, when she was on the NXT pay-per-view, Dana Brooke was in NXT before she got fired. So it's not like they're pulling, you know, random Eddie Edwards onto NXT out of nowhere, and everybody is like, gawk, gawk. It's not the same thing, you know. But okay, I'll give them the idea that some of these people might be a little hypocritical.
In NXT, the fans there, they embrace everyone except for Rich Holland for whatever reason, but everyone else that comes in, from Baron Corbin, anyone, right? Anyone from another company, they just embrace it. They're so happy that they're gracing that piece of the right.
Because, and that was the end of the clip, but they're excited because those are not expected people on the show. When somebody like Baron Corbin shows up, he's not expected. So to them, it's a surprise. You know, it's somebody who might be and it has a level of intrigue to it. It has a level of what the hell is he doing here? You know, it has that sort of element to it. Like, oh, okay. And then when they come to NXT, they do something a little bit different. You know, and when they're doing something a little bit different, NXT gives them the opportunity to recreate themselves. And Baron Corbin took that. And some people take that. The NXT audience do respect the main roster talent that comes down because they're not seeing those people all the time, and most of the time they're not expecting them. You know? And in some cases, these are people that the majority of the fans don't like, but a minimal amount of fans can actually get into them. And Baron Corbin was a very interesting one because he has always been very hot and cold, where he was much like Hardcore Holly, where everybody knows who he is, but nobody really cares. Like he's there, but who really cares that he's there? You know? So him going down to NXT was interesting. It was fun, at least. He just went down there to recreate himself. Now he's not doing anything on the main roster. Bold Musa says, not a smart idea from TNA. Kenny Omega only draws smarks, not mainstream casual audiences. Well, the whole thing with TNA and AEW was that it was a one-sided partnership anyway. And it was extremely one-sided, you know, in terms of they sent their top guy to Impact to win the title and then beat all their guys and then leave without doing a job to any of those guys. I mean, as far as we know, at least I think Izzy Dame is wrestling Jordan Grace tonight. She's about to be the third person from NXT that Jordan Grace has beaten. Now, are we leading somewhere where one of the NXT girls is finally going to beat Jordan Grace? I hope not. But Jordan Grace said her contract is up in 6 months, so she'll probably be in the Royal Rumble for reals this time as a member of the WWE roster. And TNA should be very happy if it happens. So there was a guy, his name is Rob Klingman, sorry. He used to be WWE's Vice President of Global and Digital Integrated Sponsorship Sales, and he is now running TNA. He's now the CRO, the Chief Revenue Officer of TNA's parent company, Anthem Sports. And he was asked about the crossover. And he says the difference really is a distribution mechanism that WWE uses to push their content out versus what TNA does. Right now, we're focusing on getting that distribution even larger than it is for TNA. Well, guess what? You got to get off of Access. If you can get TNA off of Access and in front of the people, that might actually be good. Get it off Access. I can't stress enough that you need to get that show off that channel. So he goes on to say, that's one of the big reasons why I came on board was to help distribution, work with our team internally at TNA and lock in an opportunity for the fans to see it worldwide. And that's our ultimate goal. But right now, that's where we see the differentiation point between WWE and TNA. There's cars going around outside. Oh God. He continues by saying that he wants to try to get involved on WrestleMania weekend. He says the ultimate goal is to be on WrestleMania. He says, I think there's an opportunity maybe doing events in the same weekend. Finding a way to do something where we parallel the opportunity for fans to gather around and see content that they want to see at their time. And that could be an event weekend that parallels WWE and TNA at some point. He says, but obviously WrestleMania is the ultimate. WWE would be foolish to share WrestleMania weekend with TNA. Now that would be dumb. Do it with Survivor Series. You could do it with NXT pay-per-views. That seems to be the best option. Is when NXT has a pay-per-view, have a TNA pay-per-view either earlier in the day or the day before that features NXT talent, and let those two shows be part one and part two of the same show. People keep talking about Worlds Collide. WWE used to do these events, Worlds Collide, where they would have like NXT and 205 Live or NXT and NXT UK and all that kind of stuff. Do a Worlds Collide that is NXT TNA. Have the TNA portion on Friday night, or you could have it on Saturday, and have NXT on Sunday. You might not want to do it on Friday because SmackDown's on Friday. So do it on Saturday, and then do it on Sunday and have those two events linked, in a way. That's the best way to do it. And I think that would be great for both brands. And you could even do something slick, like have the NXT title defended on a TNA show, a TNA pay-per-view, and have the TNA championships defended on an NXT pay-per-view. That could be fun. Flip the shows. Have like whoever is the top guy in TNA challenge for the NXT titles on a TNA pay-per-view. Just to give you an example, let's say it's somebody like Dolph Ziggler, who I think is the top babyface in TNA right now. And he challenges, Ethan Page for the NXT championship at Worlds Collide or whatever. Part one. And then you'll have, maybe Wesley or whatever challenge for the X Division title. And so on and so forth. And then the next night, you just flip it. Moose defends the TNA World Championship against Shawn Spears or something like that. That sucks. That's terrible. That's terrible booking, Mongo. I need to go headbutt a rusty nail for that. I owe myself 10 lashes for that stupid ass idea. But it was the first thing that came to my mind. Moose. I'm not going to say Moose versus Obafemi. I'm not going to say that. I don't want Obafemi to wrestle Moose. I don't want to wrestle Shawn Spears. I don't want to wrestle anybody, to be right honest. Conduct unbecoming a wrestling fan. I owe myself 10 lashes for suggesting Shawn Spears and Moose. But you get what I'm saying. And that would be cool, I think. You can even swerve some people by having one of the titles switch. People think, oh, everybody's just going to retain. But then some NXT guy becomes the X Division champion. Or some knockouts girl wins the North American title in NXT or whatever. I don't know who that would be. But let's just say. And you can have a fun couple of months with that. So I don't have a problem with what he's talking about. And now that I see that it's actually a thing where it's possible, where you look at this like it's actually possible. Our boy Society Review says AEW attracted work rate marks who were upset at Vince McMahon for not embracing work rate. Now Triple H is in charge. All the work rate fans went back to WWE. there is an unfortunate truth to that. There's an unfortunate truth to that. Even with Triple H's obsession with work rate, there's still more wrestling on an AEW show. It's just that the wrestling means less. I can't stress that enough. At the very least, Triple H tries to build TV matches. Now Tony Khan's going back to that. He's just not building and booking random shit anymore. Even though that Okada and Swerve match is just a pop a number, it's not really built up. MJF and Ospreay is, but Okada and Swerve, and that's just random work rate shit done in 2020, 2021, whatever. Which is what they're trying to get back to. They're trying to get back in the past, you know. AJ3 says, do they remember the time AEW invaded TNA? I remember when Tony Khan was cutting promos on TNA talking about how shitty it was, which didn't seem very very sporting of him. I mean, I know he was trying to work his little character. You know, he saw Vince do it and in Memphis, and he figured, oh, I can do that. No, you can't actually. You suck for reals. Thanks for, I'm just saying there's ways of doing this thing that can make it interesting for all parties involved. And since it's NXT, it's more fun. If you do it on the main roster, you're really just going to do yourself some damage because there's so many top guys, and nobody wants to see like Mustafa Ali beat Drew McIntyre and no shit like that. And so there's just no point in doing that. But you can get away with it if it's like some mid-carder on NXT, especially if he's a guy straight out of the Performance Center. They ain't never really done anything. Like it's Javon Evans. He's only worked indies. Who cares if Mustafa Ali beats him? No big deal. Yeah, but your top guys, like your Obafemis and your Trick Williams, I would imagine those guys would win. Just like I would imagine the top guys in TNA would win. It would be like the mid-carders and the low-card guys that would be trading victories, losing here and there. Simon says, it would be cool if someone like Ariana Grace and Carmen Petrovich would win the Knockouts tag team titles from whoever the hell has them. You say that, and I can't remember who the tag team champions are on Impact. I have no idea. And you know what? Bayley actually mentioned on the clip with Cody Rhodes that she wants to do an Evolution show, and part of the reason why she wants to do it, the all-women show, is because now they have access to like the TNA women and all that kind of stuff. She doesn't know the ins and outs of that. But she's just saying, like, when they did the first show, they had to bring back legends and they had to use NXT talent. They would still have to do that today. I have been on the outs with a lot of people because I actually support the Evolution shows. I think they should have a women's only brand. I've been pitching that one for years. And the only reason I think that is there's a WNBA, there's female leagues of everything. It should be a female wrestling league. WWE, Women's World Wrestling Entertainment. That's what it should be. All right. WWE Thunder. Sunday afternoons, and it's a 2-hour show with nothing but the girls or whatever. I don't care. The unfortunate thing is it probably wouldn't get all the girls off of Raw and SmackDown. It'll probably just be them with their own show plus them polluting Raw and SmackDown. And as a person who hates feminism, the feminism is them being forced upon us via Raw and SmackDown rather than them having their own brand and being segregated. That's what I think. They should go get their own show. Give them their own show, man. Even if it's just a 1-hour show. I thought they were going to do that with 205 Live. I remember for a while there when they started really killing the cruiserweight division, they started putting girls on there. And they were under 205 pounds, but I was just like, I thought, why would you putting them on here? But they didn't do that. But I can see Triple H being bullied into another Evolution show, even though he was against the idea a couple of years ago. Now because he could always blame Vince, but now he yearns to be liked. He is definitely doing an Evolution show, and I can see him bringing back the Mae Young Classic. If he was to do that stuff, it'd just be on NXT. He says if that happens, Triple H will make Raw even more work rate. That's true. That's nobody wants to watch these dudes. I don't know, man. That Evolution show would be a disaster. But they make so much money that even if they lost money on that deal, it wouldn't make a difference. They'd be doing it for the politics and the pop at that point. AJ3 says, don't forget, still working on women's singles titles. That's coming soon. See, I heard about that. They're going to do like a women's intercontinental title or whatever. I believe it when I see it. They already got too many belts, man. There's so many belts floating around. And they don't do anything with the people who got belts now. Like, Bayley doesn't do shit. If Liv Morgan wasn't involved with this thing with Dominic Mysterio, she wouldn't even be on the show. Oh, Tiny Foot European. Oh, my God. Tiny Foot European Championship is just girls wearing ballet shoes. Society Review says this WWE women's roster is so bad you can't even send them to Costa Rica in bikinis to pop a rating because half of them look like strip club bouncers. Oh, my God. You know what? I saw Bianca Belair hula hooping. Very weird stuff because she looked extra beefy hula hooping. Like, I see Bianca Belair, she's fine. But for some reason, she looked like Booker T when she was hula hooping. And I'm just like, what's wrong with her body? Like, is she always that beefy? It's like, no, because I see her in her tights or I see her in a dress or something like that, and she does not look that big. But then she strips down, and you're like, holy shit. She's super jacked. Like, why is she so jacked? But I don't know. She goes, but most of them are just, blandly unattractive. The roster is filled with like Candice LeRae's and Zoe Starks. There is no, they kind of have strained out the models, which is why NXT is actually so successful. That's another reason, why NXT is so successful. They keep having girls on there that break the internet, like Nikita Lyons and Jada Parker and all of those kinds of girls who are like super fine. Even if they can't wrestle for shit. I mean, my God, girl's thick and she's fine. People will tune in just for that. AJ3 says, have Stephanie McMahon be the general manager of the women's brand, but what are we going to call it? I don't care what you call it. If Stephanie's going to be involved in it, I probably would struggle to watch it anyway. I'll probably watch it for the cringe. But if Stephanie's involved, oh my God, I can't imagine how bad it's going to get. Stone Mexican guy says Bayley seems like the only one that misses Sasha. Wrestling Soup mentioned that too. That she doesn't seem to have a lot of friends. Like, she's only got 2. She was in WWE for over 10 years. She made 2 friends. But you can either make friends or you can make money. Isn't that what Scott Hall said? Stone Mexican guy says no more Lita. She's old and moves like crap now. Yeah, it was kind of weird that they had Lita. They brought her back. They wrote her off TV and then never brought her back. She got wrote off TV right after winning the tag team titles and then just vanished, never to return, and never even mentioned again. She didn't even come back later in that angle. She just disappeared. She disappeared off the face of the earth. Simon says, I've been meaning to ask you, are you a sexual Lex offender or an Oba feminist? I'm definitely an Oba feminist. Absolutely. Being a Lex offender is crazy. Bianca looks like a dude. In the body, yes, but not in her face. Even without makeup, she's still a pretty girl. It's just that she's jacked beyond belief. and you can't really tell that in her wrestling gear. But when she's wearing like regular gym clothes or something like that, she's goddamn Bobby Lashley, and it's crazy. I wasn't expecting that. Jade is even more built than Bianca, but she is still way sexier. Yeah, I think it's part of the way how Jade carries herself. She's a little bit more feminine than Bianca. I think they both were athletes, but Bianca was like more of I think a higher level athlete than Jade was. But Jade's like her stomach is crazy. Like it looks like when people used to talk about Janet Jackson had her ribs removed. That's kind of how Jade Cargill looks. Like she looked like when she had that baby, she had like half her ribs removed, and now her stomach looks like a paved road. Like she don't like she could gain weight if she tried. I'm like whatever her workout regimen is crazy. But I knew it was going to come to this. I talked about it years ago when Rhea Ripley became all the rage. She was massive and she looked like Crush, and I was like, whew, that girl big, and she's big for no reason. She's like big all over big. And then Raquel Gonzalez showed up and she was big too, and I was like, oh my god, this is getting ridiculous. But yeah, they're going into Jack Girl era, which is I'm surprised by the Nia Jax thing because you'd have thought they went with a Jack Girl. Yeah, well, I remember Lita showing up. I just remember her winning the tag team titles and then very quickly vacating them. I don't know if she got hurt. There was no conversation at all about where she went or why. It's just she showed up and then she left. Nobody said anything. She was replaced with Trish Stratus, and that was it. She didn't go on Twitch and talk about it or nothing, which is usually what she does. She goes on Twitch and belly aches about what's going on. But she didn't even do that. So Vince would have all the muscle women job out to Alexa Bliss. Absolutely not. It's the opposite, actually. Vince was all about the muscle mommies. That's why you had Charlotte being on top for as long as she was on top. Even though she's not nearly as cut as the rest of them. She was the biggest of the bunch at the time. And then Bianca showed up and Vince turned her into fucking Wonder Woman. And if he'd have had Jade Cargill, she'd be champion right now. falling all over herself and everything. She'd be champion right now. And people would be mad. That's a good thing about Vince, though. He didn't fuck around. He wouldn't have fat ass Bronson Reed hanging around doing nothing. Vince was all about the muscle mommies, bro. No doubt about it. Yeah, Beth Phoenix. I'm surprised they didn't bring her back to do some muscle mommy stuff. Charlotte should have never gotten rid of her stripper boobs in 2020 because they hid all her worst features. She never should have started messing with her face, which is almost always the problem. She got rid of her boobs because they kept leaking. I think she popped her silicone a couple of times. That's why she was gone for so long in 2020 and 2021, so she got rid of them. But she started doing weird stuff to her face. Now she looks like Cher. I don't know how many faces she's had at this point, like 3 or 4. But she's going to be as bad as her daddy in a second. Because Ric Flair, man, he's got so much of that shit with his face pulled back. He's about as bad as Vince. That Botox, man. What are they thinking? Anyway, let's go into this last thing here. It says, report, WWE talents not surprised by injury rates in AEW. This is from, they're quoting PW Insider. I couldn't go directly to the site because PW Insider is absolute cancer. It's like the most cavernous site in the world. I hate PW Insider as a site. It's a disaster. I still go there like once a day, but it's a disaster to navigate. My God, what a terrible site they got. Okay, so they're talking about injuries. So Mike Johnson says, quote, one thing that was regularly privately complained about during the Thunderdome era was that they being the talent, found it harder to perform when they were only competing on Mondays or Fridays or doing the SmackDown and the Raw tapings because they could not callous their bodies in the ring. I had numerous top talents in WWE tell me they were actually very relieved when they were able to get back into the touring situation because it's actually easier on the body. because their body would never get a chance to sort of heal from the weekly beatings that they would get, and they would just get into the groove and be used to it. That was actually easier on the body than wrestling. Having 5 or 6 days to heal and then wrestling again, they could get into the ring and take bumps. They could get in the ring and do drills and do repetition and things of that nature, but performing is a completely different animal. I've heard of this before. I'm not going to go into how I know. It's some level of truth to it. But yeah, once you stop working out and then you start back working out, that's always harder. If you start doing something and then you just stop, and then you stop for a long time and then you get back into it, it's always worse. Even if it's just like basic working out. If you ever like stop working out for like a month or so, it's going to be hell trying to get back into it. So you got to be consistent with it. So that makes sense. But he continues by saying many of them felt they were quite a few steps in the beginning of the touring process because they had not been doing it. They actually relayed to me that they felt it was easier to be wrestling full time than it would be to wrestle once and then be off a week and wrestle again. I don't know if there's anything scientific to this, but there have been WWE talents who have told me they are not surprised at the high injury rate that sometimes happens at AEW because those talents are not consistently wrestling all the time in comparison to WWE talent. They are wrestling on Wednesday, and then maybe they're wrestling on Saturday, and unless they're choosing to do independence, they're not doing anything else. There's an element of truth to that, I would believe. I don't know the science behind it either. I just know as somebody who works out, if you stop doing it and then you start doing it all over again, it's harder to do. Now, are you more likely to be injured? I don't think so. I think you're actually more likely to get injured the more you're working because you're putting more and more stress on certain parts of the body. But you have to take into account that a lot of the injuries in AEW are unforced errors, like what Edge did. That was the dumbest fucking thing I've seen in a long time. The guy 50 years old, he jumped off the top of a cage like an idiot. The Adam Cole thing is it was completely freak that this guy breaks both of his ankles just by jumping from one short platform. And he broke both his ankles and he couldn't walk. Like, that's psychotic. Like, who does that happen to? Like, his ankles are made of glass at that point, bro. Like, how did that happen to you? But that's what happened. But then you got guys like Darby Allin who are going out there intentionally hurting themselves. He's a moron. MJF, who was trying his very, very best to carry the company and push his body way too far and end up destroying himself. Various jumpy guys, who are hurting their knees and stuff, like the guy from Private Party, and the guy from Dante Martin, who shattered his ankle in a ladder match. It's like those guys jump all the time. The more you jump and twist and all that kind of stuff, the more likely you are to roll your ankle, blow out your knee, tear your hamstring, MCL, ACL, etc. There's a reason why almost all of the MCL tears or whatever happen to athletes. You never hear some fat dude fuck around and tore his meniscus. It never happened. It's almost always basketball players and football players and stuff because they use those body parts more often. Oh my goodness! I just now became aware of this Ronda Rousey quote. We got to talk about this. I'm gonna get back to talking to you guys for a second while I read this because I'd never seen it before. Oh, Ronda could fuck off. Stone Mexican guy said, I think Edge hurt himself on purpose to get time off. I don't know, man. He did his leg down bad. I don't know if he did that one on. He jumped off the cage on purpose. I don't think he meant to tear his legs up though. Which explains why AEW got rid of house rules. Most of the time they got rid of the house shows because nobody wanted to do it. Moxley hated house shows. He notoriously wrote in his book about his hatred of house shows. And I would imagine those guys want to make more money and work less. So you're going to increase the work, and plus it wasn't making any money anyway because the house shows, everybody knows they're non-canon, and AEW didn't know how to make house shows interesting or make house shows fun. That's the one thing WWE tries to do is make house shows fun. Even though I haven't been to a house show in years, from the people that I've talked to, they prefer going to house shows than going to TV. And having gone to a couple of TVs, I can probably tell you house shows are probably better. But then again, the shows that I went to, like when I went to Raw, it was a lot of sitting in the dark watching videos, which sucked. That was during Vince's era when they were doing stuff like that, and it was trash. Ric Flair looks like egg yolk from Ren and Stimpy. Ooh, egg yolkio. It's sad Vince is gone, and now Triple H is trying to push tiny cruiserweight women like Roxanne Perez, Selena Vega, Liv Morgan, Candice LeRae, and Casey Square. Well, Zelina Vega was a Vince McMahon thing, and so was Liv Morgan. He liked small women. He liked the Alexa Blisses. They just had to have personality. The difference is Triple H is pushing small women with no personality. Like you can't just have a big dude with no personality. You just can't have like a small woman with no personality. It's just the personality is the important part. Society Review says, look at what Rhea Ripley looked like before she came to WWE. They really gaslit this poor girl into believing that she had to look trans and cover her body in devil tattoos to get over. From my understanding, Rhea Ripley did that to herself because she felt like she needed to stand out. And she went and cut her hair and changed the color of it on her own because she wanted to look less like Charlotte. That's my understanding. But she definitely went way too far in one direction. She constantly swings back and forth between that super masculine buff stuff and kind of goth chick. It's kind of sexy, but she still got all that shit all over her body, which is weird because she went from having a couple of tattoos and now she's got all kind of shit all over her stomach and everything. It's like, oh, what's going on with that girl? Sweet Baby Inc. MTL says Bianca Belair have the hips to waist ratio of a man and no tits. Once you see that, the illusion is gone. She absolutely does not have breasts. That is absolutely true. It's truly sad, man. Sad. But I still like Bianca. I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna hold out hope that I was tripping during that video. I need some coke. Need some grade A coke. All right, Ronda Rousey. I don't know what the hell she's talking about, but she's talking about Vince, and she's the most bitterest of bitter bitches. So she says, "quote I think anyone's better than Vince McMahon. The only place you can go is up. I really enjoy Triple H and working with him, and honestly, I haven't been watching." Oh, okay. She says, but I saw something from Natty saying that they had a card recently that had just as many women on it as the men. That's what I would really like to see. The women equally represented with not just matches on the card, but time on the show. I feel there's no place they could go but up. And I'm really, really happy for all the women still there and thriving under the new regime. This broad needs to somebody needs to take away her keyboard or something. Why is she so miserable? I don't understand why Ronda Rousey is so miserable. Is it because she has accomplished a lot of stuff and she started to fail and she's got to blame somebody? Like her ego has always been out of control, but what she's got going on here it's been crazy. Look, I don't know what show she's talking about that has just as many matches for the women as there are for the dudes. I don't know what show that was. Was it NXT? Because it might have been NXT. I'm almost certain it's not a main roster show. It sounds like an NXT thing. But I don't understand why we keep giving a microphone to Ronda Rousey. Like, there's no point to this. It sucks so bad. She sucks so bad. And people think she want to get her job back. Look, Triple H would be a fool to bring her back. He would be a fool because the audience don't like her. I'm looking through Twitter right now, and Roshi Ogawa, the guy from Stardom that started Marigold, posted a picture of a bunch of his female wrestlers in bikinis. And of course, the SJWs are out. They're pretty upset with him for posting this. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Anyway, AJ3 says, did you hear WWE just signed an ESPN commentator to be the third person commentator for SmackDown? I heard that WWE signed one of Nick Khan's folks to do commentary. I don't know anything about the guy. All I know is Nick Khan is making purchases from ESPN and bringing them to WWE. Like, Lee Fitting worked. Lee Fitting worked. Is what his name? Joe Tessitore, I think his name is. I don't think I've ever heard him do anything. I don't watch enough ESPN to know who the guy is. But him just being there, he's got to realize he's not calling. Well, are they transitioning to calling WWE like a sport? That's going to be my question. Because if they're going to transition into calling WWE like a sport, the product is going to get very boring. And it's not going to be the kind of commentary that we're used to in WWE. Gozu94 says, I don't get it. I'm sure the girls in the swimsuit shoots are at least 18 years or older this time. Here's the problem. In Japan, they do have that weird idol culture. And they have a really weird system where they pick these girls up at like 13 or 14 and throw them in the dojo. Like, that's weird. Even if I wanted to stand up for the guy, which I kind of don't. But when you have 13, 14-year-old girls and you just throw them all together and they're all taking bikini photo shoots and everything, what's that about? I don't know. And I don't know enough about these girls to know how old they are. Naturally, I would assume all of them are adults. I'm looking at the picture. None of them look super young, except for this one right here. She looks like she's about 16 or something like that. I don't know what the age of consent is in Japan, but I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. But I know they have like young women training all the time. But apparently he's selling a photo book, and it's a volume 3 of the photo book. And if the girls get fucked up, they get to shave their head bald. What? I saw somebody did a video on the Sendai Girls documentary where they were beating the shit out of some young lady over in Japan, smacking her all in the face and everything. It was crazy. It's you never know in Japan. That's why I'm saying, like, all these people who be into the Japanese stuff, and they be getting mad at Cornet for talking about the Japanese schoolgirls. Well, some of them literally are schoolgirls. These girls who have 10 years experience, they only 25. Like Sari, when she was in WWE, like, bro, she was like 21 and she had been wrestling since she was like 13. Like, what? Take your ass to school, child. And no doubt she was probably selling bikini photo pictures, because they all do in Japan. Japan sells swimsuit mags full of 13-year-olds. I like anime, but Japan is kind of weird, messed up with the whole kid touching. It was 16. She just changed to 18. Oh, it was 16 and turned 18. Okay. they still bring underage girls in the dojos because he mentioned that he only wants girls that are from 13 to 30, and that's creepy. There's no two ways about it. There's no two ways about it, man. I know he meant that he likes to get these girls in there young because once they hit their physical primes in their early 20s, that's when they're the most have the highest sexual marketplace value. And since these shows are a lot of them are creep shows, I mean they are what they are. I hate to agree with Vice, but I have to agree with Vice on this. A lot of the Stardom shows, the Mary Gold shows, Sendai Girls, a lot of that stuff is very creepy. Again, a lot of it is underage girls, and a lot of it is older, lonely men watching them. And you can see it online how protective a lot of those guys are, and it's very, very weird. It's a very weird thing in Mexico too. Like Stephanie Vacker, I don't want to get into that. I really don't want to get into how people are pissed off about it. But since I just noticed this because I was going to talk about it, then I decided not. But she got beat up by her boyfriend in Mexico. His name was like Cuartero or something like Cuartero or whatever. And I was trying to look up like the details of everything. And you know, some people have it. But Mexico is so damn serious about keeping the masked wrestlers' identities a secret. I could not find out what his real name was or what he looked like, even though he had got arrested and he's been sitting in jail for a year. I think Meltzer found out who he is because he probably was dedicated to finding out. But she's Chilean. She's from Chile. But I had heard that the reason she didn't go to AEW was because of like Rush and Dralistico and those guys. And I was like, that's weird. Like, what's her beef with Rush? I knew she had gotten beat up by her boyfriend. I didn't know that Rush was involved with that. And apparently, you know, Rush and all those guys, they were boycotting her boyfriend being in jail. They wanted the boyfriend to get out of jail, but the Mexicans wouldn't let him out because his family was making threats towards her. And so now her moving to America is likely going to be what gets him out of jail. But I was flipped out because I found his mugshot, but they had blanked his face out. And I was like, he's in jail. Why do you care about protecting his, you know, like, why do we care about protecting him? I think Meltzer ended up finding out what his real name is, but I couldn't find a picture of the fucking guy. I only could find a picture of him in his goddamn mask. But Meltzer found out what his real name is. But I was like, man, that's kind of crazy. Like, I know they're super protective over the identities of luchadors, but this dude is in fucking jail. You know, he's still like, you don't get to know what he looks like. That's weird. What a weird place, man. That Mexico is something else. But that will also explain why Rush wasn't allowed at Forbidden Door. That would also explain that. Because there weren't, well, no, there was also some CMLL guys there, something. But apparently, you know, a couple of guys decided they were going to boycott Cuartero being in jail, and Rush was one of them, and she wasn't going to go work there while he's there. I was like, that's interesting. But she's also a super mark. She's a huge WWE mark. People went through her Twitter account and found old videos of her talking about it and her old stories of her talking about it. So she's like a super fan already. So the Rush thing probably didn't really take into account, but he did do what he did, you know. Tessa Blanchard's career will die in Mexico. That's the only time she's gonna have a career. She can't work in Europe either. I guess she can work in Japan, I guess, but she can't work in Europe either because Europe is even more woke than the United States. So she ain't got no choice but to stay in Mexico. I'm surprised that she's even in Mexico because she married a Mexican man and, you know, cheated on him, and she's still walking the streets. That's weird. That's weird. It's an interesting thing. Gozu94 says, it was sad to find out about Cuartero. I loved him and his brother and cousin in NGDL stable at CMLL. I saw him when they came over to AAA because I don't really watch CMLL, but I saw them come over to AAA and then they disappeared. So I figured this might have been the issue, right? So it was oops. But according to the stories that I read, he claims that she started it. He was defending himself, but of course he's the man, so he had to go to jail. But it also sounded like he was just on a nut, like he just strangled her, and she managed to escape him and called the cops on her. Like that sounds crazy. She ran to AAA's ops and started banging another Mexican. Yeah, buddy, that was embarrassing. That had to be embarrassing for old Dago. That was very embarrassing. He cuffed him a white woman, brought her to Mexico, gave her a career and everything. Yikes. Look what she did to him. Left him out in the cold. I'm surprised that she doesn't speak. They don't speak Portuguese in Chile. They speak Spanish. Which I know she's fluent in Spanish, but it ought to be good times for her in WWE. She's a big fan of the product, so she's gonna be great. AJ3 says, speaking of Tessa, didn't you know Medusa, who was speaking out on her, called a racist lover by a black YouTuber? Oh, Brazilians speak Portuguese. Oh, okay. So, what is this about Medusa? Got Medusa who was speaking out on her, called a racist lover. Oh, called Medusa was like caping for Tessa or something. Medusa's a hag, bro. I don't know what more to say. I've never heard anything positive come out of that chick. It's just my thing is Tessa Blanchard is so young, and for her career to be over, and she wasn't even 30, and to know she did it to herself is crazy. Like she's got to be like the biggest could have been of all time. I mean, it seemed like it was set up perfectly. She was peaking right at the time Charlotte was peaking. They got the Horseman thing in the background, and it seemed like it might work. But then she had to go and act a fool in TNA, and then she acted a fool in WoW. That was it. And then of course she burnt that bridge in AAA too. So it was like it's CMLL or fucking Japan at this point, you know. So it's unfortunate, but I figure if Triple H did what he did, you know, he massaged whatever he had to massage to get Jacob Fatu on the roster. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not that bad. I mean, I think it's like an armed robbery or something, right? Like, it's not worse than what Booker T and MVP did, I'm sure. It's not like domestic violence or anything like that. But the fact that Tessa is blackballed for something that's not illegal, you know, not liking black people is not illegal, is distasteful. But when she got outed, like half the people that was talking shit about her was in like the WWE locker room. And some of them are still there, you know. So it's like, ooh, she can't go work there. I think Iowa Dawn was one of them. I think Chelsea Green was one of them. There's just so many people came out of nowhere and was like, "Hey, remember when you was racist and you spit at a black girl?" Everybody was like, "Whoa, where'd that come from?" Oh yeah, Tessa had a lot of issues in WoW too. She was like one of the head trainers there, and that was her last chance, man, because the Lakers owner owned the company. You know, Jeannie Buss. She started this wrestling company, and she brought in Tessa and AJ and all this kind of stuff. She had a real big dreams of making that shit work. And then like 3 weeks later, Tessa was out, and I was like, "Yep, that's it. That's it for her. Nobody's gonna take a chance on her now because somebody did, and they got burnt. She can't even go back to TNA at this point. Like, why? Her only option. She do has one option. Tessa Blanchard has one option. NWA. That's her only option. And maybe MLW. Maybe MLW. But she can't go back to TNA because Rosemary is there, as a Society Review is saying. I think Allison Kay went back to TNA as well. She can't go back there. And then there was a bunch of girls from the NXT UK locker room that was shitting all over her. She can't go there either. I haven't seen Daga's new chick. I saw him being sad when I haven't seen much of him since the whole Tessa thing anyway. Maybe I don't watch enough AAA. But he was looking sad as hell. This was a couple of years ago though. But yeah, she can't go anywhere. There's nothing you could do. WG Phil said you touch on Cena's retirement. Do you think it's due to him thinking it's time, or Triple H pushing him away like Edge? I think it's a combination of both. I think Cena's too nice to try to bury what's going on, and I do think that there's some funny business going on backstage. I think the Triple H Rock stuff and the whole WrestleMania 41 situation. That's why I think Roman's gonna step away quickly too. I think Roman's probably going to be on his retirement tour as well. And I don't think Brock coming back either. So it's really about to be a new generation. I just don't see them bringing back Brock. I just don't see it. If they was going to bring him back, they bring him back by now. They're trying to wait for this whole lawsuit thing to clear up. Man, this shit ain't going to be clear for like 2 or 3 years, man. He'd be about 50 years old by then. By that point in time, he's going to be enjoying his retirement. Why be bothered with that shit? If he's not back by, around this time next year, he ain't coming back. But Cena's going to be 1 foot out the door. I'm pretty sure Roman, again, watching that documentary, he had a 1,000-mile stare when he he had the 1,000-mile stare, like, oh my God, I got to wrestle Cody again. Oh my God. He probably was very proud of the story that they told, but he wanted to get the fuck out of there. And you could tell that pretty early. And I'm pretty sure all of Vince's guys are about to be gone, And I wouldn't be surprised if that's, part of it. Is Vince cultivated such a relationship with some of these guys that they don't want to work for Triple H? Like, why? Brock had already said if Vince was gone, he was gone. He only came back because Vince talked him into coming back. And now Vince is gone for good and Brock is gone for good. I don't see Brock coming back. To do what? So I think Brock's done. I wouldn't be surprised if Vince pulled the plug on Cena too. They probably told them, look, fuck them. Don't even bother going back. That would be like a boss move, though. If Vince made a phone call and said, John, you know what? You should wrap it up. Give him 1 more year and then pull the plug. Just give him 1 more year and then call it quits. But, they're going to have a handful with The Rock. Oh, my God. Oh, it's going to be funny. It's going to be funny. Now that The Rock's going to get back involved, it's going to be funny. What do I think AEW can do to restore the feeling? They need to get healthy. They need to bring all their talent back. They're going to need everybody not everybody. They need Adam Cole to come back. They need Kenny Omega to come back. Now, talent alone is not going to fix the problem. I say that all the time. But it helps. It really does help when you have name talent on the roster. So they need those 2 guys to come back. And then they need to actually start crafting stories that make people care about them. Push Adam Cole. Yeah, push him over a bridge. Society of Review say a boss move would be Rock firing Triple H and disguising the roster quitting as talent cuts. uh, but Brock only rocks with Vince. Probably knows Triple H will lowball him and bury him out of spite. Brock is not going to do any jobs he don't want to do. I think he liked Cody. That's why he did stuff with Cody, but that was it. I mean, the thing about it in reality for me is that some people don't like the changes. Like Undertaker came out and was like, it's a little so different back there now. You know? And there's a bunch of people who are going to be like, I don't know if I like this. And those people may start trailing off. But it was very strange. And it's going to look strange to people eventually that Edge just left. WWE lifer just left. Just took off. He claimed he had a WWE contract in his email, and he didn't take it. He instead went to AEW. There's something very suspicious about that. The very next year, John Cena is talking about retiring. That's suspicious. You know? So don't be surprised when next year you probably hear that Roman is not coming back at some point. And he's going to be wrapping it up. At that point, you have seen Edge leave, Cena leave, Roman leave, and Brock is gone. Brock didn't even say anything. They suspended him for some shit that he had, for some hearsay. That probably pissed him off, even though it's business. I wouldn't be surprised if all of this stuff happening is orchestrated in some way. And most people don't want to see it that way, but I think I can see it as being kind of orchestrated. Cena may sign one of those Undertaker lifelong deals, some kind of 20-year Magic Johnson contract where he won't go anywhere else, but which is what he said, is he's want to be continues to be an advocate and all that kind of stuff, an ambassador. But there's a reason he's leaving. You know, there's a reason he's leaving. It just probably has not been clear to anybody yet why he's leaving. But The Rock getting more involved, positives, negatives to it. But The Rock and Triple H trying to share a creative room is just not going to work. Especially since The Rock insists on wrestling Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. That'll probably be it for probably both of them at that point. He might wrestle Cody, and I'm talking about The Rock, because the story is there. But I don't see him doing a hell of a lot more, to be quite honest. Do you think Cena doesn't like the backstage culture right now? I think he's too nice of a guy to say if he doesn't. He's too much of a company guy to say that he doesn't. I think part of it is there's something those guys know that we don't. And that's what I'm trying to get to. You know, there's something there that they're not going to talk about unless something catastrophic happens. There's some stuff there. Like Stone Cold Steve Austin not showing up for WrestleMania, despite the fact that he probably got the call well in advance to do the thing with The Rock. Why would Steve Austin not do that? Why would he not just come out and give The Rock a stunner? Why wouldn't he do that? They had to call Undertaker to do it. Why would they not have Steve Austin do it? Why would he turn that down? That should have been suspicious to people. Like, there's weird things happening. There's weird stuff happening. There's weird stuff occurring. And some people have suggested that John Cena being involved with the sex trafficking stuff, the lawsuit and everything, is bad for his brand. That could be it. It could be that the company is going to be involved with this lawsuit for a long time, and Cena don't want anything to do with it. So he's going to go out there, give him one more year, and then call it quits, so he won't have to deal with that shit no more. Maybe that's going to be it. You know, maybe that's why The Rock is there, to try to rehab his image and rehab the image of the company. Even though I don't know if it's going to help him, but it might. You never can tell. Gozu94 says, my question is that did Stone Cold even get the call? If he didn't, let's say he didn't get that call. If you wouldn't call Steve Austin in that situation, are you incompetent? It's incompetent to not call him. Now, Undertaker was going to be there anyway, so maybe that's the thought. Oh, Undertaker will be here anyway, so I think he did like a one-man show or something around that time. You know, but I would imagine Steve Austin would have been there. Zadie Rue says, I'm sure a lot of Attitude Era dudes ain't cool with taking orders from Triple H. And you also, it ain't just Triple H. Triple H is just one piece of the thing. You also got Nick Khan back there. And now you got Phillip back there. Now I've seen CM Punk do the hug, hug box with everybody from Randy Orton to Seth Rollins, and there's definitely some people that probably don't like him, and he's probably got some stroke back there too now. So I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the older guys are kind of like, this nigga back. I don't know about that. I don't want to deal with that shit. Triple H, Punk, Rock, egos all over the place. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know about this one. I would reconsider. Cena is the next validated Hall of Famer for WWE because they have no more names left. Well, he'll probably lead his Hall of Fame class. He probably will decline to go in next year because he's still going to wrestle. He might go in like 2026 once he's officially retired. But then again, he said he's not wearing jorts anymore after next year. So maybe he'll wear the jorts for the Hall of Fame and then that's it. Maybe. But they still have the Hardy Boys. If there's, still, if Matt can still walk and if Jeff can stay conscious, they can be headliners. I think Demolition is still alive. I don't know if they're on good terms with the company again. It's a different company now. Maybe Triple H don't care about that shit no more, and he'll put Demolition in the Hall of Fame. But would that mean they have to put Crush in the Hall of Fame? Oh, please don't do that. Please don't do that. I guess they have to. They put Jimmy Jam in the Hall of Fame with the Freebirds, man. I guess they got to put Crush in there, right? Cena ain't going to AEW. That ain't happening. Roman has nothing left to do. He always has that ticking bomb with blood cancer. However, I don't know if he wants to be part of Cena's humiliation ritual. I don't think he wants to be a part of that shit at all, man. I'm thinking that he probably got a taste of what this new thing is about to be. And it seems to me like he's Brock's boy. Brock went through a lot to make him. And you could tell that a lot of these guys who are Vince guys, they don't like they fit in. Let's put it like that. A lot of them don't look like they fit in. The Rock's been gone long enough, and he's a Nick Khan guy now. He's Hollywood Rock. He's been in Hollywood longer than he was in wrestling. So it's a little different with him. But I would imagine it's good for the Paul Heyman, CM Punk, Triple H triumvirate for those guys to get the fuck out of here and for the young guys to see them as the people who giving them opportunities and everything. It's just better for them. It's just how you fight wars. Let the old generals retire or die on the battlefield, and you just replace them with your guys. So let Cena go, let Brock go, and then you start. Undertaker's already gone, but he's willing to show back up and help. There's enough people that once they're out of the way, you can just replace them. Like once Cena is gone, Punk's going to be the Cena of WWE. I don't see how it's going to work, but they don't have anybody else because Roman's not going to be around much longer either. So who are you going to have as the mainstream star for the company? There's nobody on the roster right now outside of the guys that are already like 1 foot out of the door already. Randy said he's going to do 5 more years, but Randy's not going to stay around 5 more years, man. He's not sticking around that long. Randy's not sticking around that long. So you can forget it. I think a lot of those guys are probably going to be done. And he says, I don't mind Brock bouncing. Dude went out on a solid match with Cody at SummerSlam after countless mid feuds and matches. He was really good. John Cena retiring is fine. He's washed. Well, yeah, he is washed. I mean, all of them are. But I don't think Cena was. I think at some point you do get tired of wearing the clown suit and him coming out in jorts. He's almost 50 now. I get it. But for all of this stuff to happen at the same time is very suspicious. Especially since it came out of nowhere. I'm talking about John Cena's retirement. It came out of nowhere. Like there was no build up to this at all. No conversation about it. It was just him randomly saying stuff like, I know it's coming to an end soon. It's coming to an end soon. I'm like, wait a minute. What are you talking about? And then, boom, Money in the Bank. I'm retiring. I'm like, whoa. Okay. Well, if you say so, go for it. Came out of nowhere. Let's see. Do you see Drew is starring with a movie with Batista? No, I did not see that. Drew McIntyre is going to be in a movie? Oh, boy, that'll be interesting. Did you see the photo of Damian Priest and Gunther before they were signed to WWE? Yes, when fat Damian Priest. He talked about that in his documentary. He had a documentary. He talked about how he had to lose all that weight. I think he was going through depression at the time. He was really fat. That's why he didn't come to WWE until he was almost 40. He was like 36 when he signed him. He was in Ring of Honor right before that. He got in really great shape for WWE, and they gave him a push for it. He was in good shape. But Gunther, they had to whip him into shape. But he was a big fat goofball. Like it almost looked like Photoshop when you see old pictures of, especially of his like old funny hair color gimmick and stuff like that. It was a joke. It was pathetic. I'm like, ugh. Yikes. Who do I think should face Cena for his WrestleMania match? I personally think his last match should be at WrestleMania. It's not going to be. He said he's going to wrestle until December. Maybe they do Cena's last match in December. Maybe. That'd be nice. But for a final WrestleMania opponent, well, you got a couple options. You can't use Edge because Edge is in AEW, which would have been perfect. Can't use Kurt Angle. He's old. He's washed beyond belief. Randy is probably the best option you got, or Punk, one or the other. So if it's me, it's Randy, and you do an end of an era kind of match where Randy and Cena have one more big WrestleMania main event because they have never main event at WrestleMania together. So you probably book that for night 1. Night 2 has to be the title match. Night 1, Cena's final WrestleMania appearance versus Randy Orton. Randy probably going to blow his back out again, trying to make that good. It'll probably be the end for both of them. But you got a couple of people. You can AJ Styles. He'll probably still be around at that time. But it wouldn't feel right if it was AJ. You know, AJ's a pretty good opponent for Cena, but he's not a final opponent. Punk is a final opponent. You know, Cena made Punk in WWE. You know, so you could do that. You could do Orton. I think him and Orton being peers is probably the best option. You know, he's also peers with Batista, not with Batista, with Bobby Lashley, but they don't think of Lashley like that. So why even consider that? But I think he should work mostly tag matches next year. 6-man tags, stuff like that, and then bust out the singles matches here and there. And then call it a day. Final match should be 1-on-1 versus, I don't know, Braun Breaker or Gunther. But it shouldn't be like Flair, where, you know, if he loses one more match, it's over. I'm like, But it should also be like Flair in so much as everybody gets a chance to get in the ring with him. Because that's what they did with Kurt Angle too. Is when everybody knew it was over, they gave a lot of the guys an opportunity to get in there and wrestle Kurt Angle. That's when he got to wrestle Chad Gable and stuff like that, right? So I would say maybe his final opponent should be Cody, because Cody really wants that. And Cody is a politician, and Cody's going to get what he wants. He's a top star now. He's going to get what he wants. So I can imagine that he's not ending that year without getting in the ring with Cody. And maybe Cody is his WrestleMania opponent. Because maybe Cody will still have the belt. Maybe Cena wins the Rumble and his opponent is Cody at WrestleMania. I mean, Roman doesn't need the belt. For what? And do you really want Cody and Roman 3? I don't want that. It's got to be Randy. WWE is just sending their E-list NXT guys to TNA while poaching the top 3 guys. It's hilarious. No one knows who Izzy Dame is. Yeah, nobody has any idea. She's so new. She just started this year. She's super new. Yeah, Kurt Angle would have been a great final opponent for Cena, but he was washed even for his own last match. You know? But Vince fucked him in a major way with the Baron Corbin thing. And I really would like to know why he chose Baron Corbin. Like, why would he do that? Why would you do that? But I guess it was like he went to TNA for all those years. Fuck him. But at least could have gave him AJ Styles, you know, like to do the TNA thing, you know. Lashley needs one big final run. He's not going to get it with Triple H. You can forget it. How many of the marks are going to be in an uproar about Metro Boomin deal with Bad Blood? And some people praise Rick Ross and the other Fed. I forgot about the Metro Boomin thing. He is in the commercials with Cody and everything. They should hire him to do their music. How much money would that cost them, though, for Metro Boomin to do the themes? And do you really want like Swamp Trap themes? I do. It's better than the shit they got now. WG Field says, I really hope they don't waste his final match on building a star like they did for Mania 39 and Crown Jewel. I don't think so. He should only wrestle top guys, singles. He should wrestle Drew McIntyre. He should wrestle Cody. He should wrestle Punk. He should wrestle Randy. And if they can get Brock to show up, he should wrestle Brock. And that should be his 5 single matches all the rest of the year. Everything else, tags, 6-man tags. That's it. 5 people. McIntyre, Punk, Randy, Brock, and did I say AJ Styles? Because maybe AJ Styles. That should be it. All right. 5 or 6 singles matches. And Cody. I think I said Cody. That should be it. And maybe Drew McIntyre. Nobody else. There's nobody else to work. If you want to have him wrestle like Logan Paul or something like that, tag match is probably the best option to go with that. If you want to have him wrestle somebody like Braun Breaker, tag match is best option for that. Save his singles matches. I don't think he should wrestle Roman. I don't think Roman needs to wrestle him again. So no, I don't think that should need to happen. There's only a couple of guys that he needs to wrestle one-on-one. Everybody else can just share the spotlight in the tag match, man. It's just chill. He should beat Kevin Federline. When they do the Cena, "This Is Your Life" segment, which Triple H would never do because he's not fun. That's one thing I would have wanted him to bring up, is that he lost to Kevin Federline. But I think his final opponent should either be Randy Orton or Cody, to be quite honest. Just a reminder, Becky Lynch has been a free agent for 6 weeks, and no one has given a single pluck and have less to spare. I think she's a free agent, quote unquote. It seems to me that she just used her contract expiring as a way of, taking some time off. If she was going to go to AEW, there really is no place for her, because you're going to pay her who knows how many millions of dollars. To do what exactly? Who is she going to work with? You've already teased Sasha Banks wrestling Britt Baker, and Toni Storm's already wrestling Mariah May. And that's a storyline that you've actually spent time building. If you was going to spend the money on Becky Lynch, what would she do? You have no other top girls for her to wrestle. Thunder Rosa? I mean, yeah. But it would be an interesting thing, and it would say a whole lot if she left and stayed gone. I could see her, taking the time off, because she tried to take time off, and then Rhea got hurt, and then she had to come back. So I could see her taking this time off. But if she's not coming back, that would be suspicious to me too. That would be very suspicious. Constable Corbin. Oh yeah, that was really bad. That was really bad. Cena versus Melo. Oh no. The thing is, I may like Carmelo Hayes, but he's not on that level yet. He ain't on the level for him to be in a big singles match against John Cena. And it would be fun for Melo, I guess, but nah. Save it for the guys that are top guys. Clashes that you don't see that much. Like, Cena has been in the same company with Drew McIntyre for years, and I don't think they've ever had a match. They haven't had one that I remember. So that would be a great one to have. He hasn't had a match with Lashley in over 10 years. But they haven't had a match in almost 20 years. I think their last match was in 2006. So they ain't had a match in almost 20 years. And they don't see Lashley that way. So I think Drew McIntyre for a fresh opponent and Cody for a fresh opponent. And then the others should just be rivals that he's faced before, and just, one last hurrah. Can't see Becky leaving WWE with Seth still there unless they have some issues. Yeah, I don't think so either. I think she probably already got like a verbal agreement to come back. They do all this fake free agency. Chris Jericho was up on it before when he talked about Brock being a free agent. And he's like, he's not really a free agent. He's just, not under contract right now. And I think that's what they're doing with Becky Lynch, where she's a free agent in so much as she ain't got to show up on Raw. But she's willing to pop up any day now. I wouldn't be surprised if he don't pop up in like October or something. She'll probably pop up, right after SummerSlam or some shit like that. Because she'd have been off about 2 months by then, 2-3 months. They could use Logan for a Sudai match in a triple threat. I would like to see a true one-on-one with Rey Mysterio. That could be fun too. He could wrestle Rey. That would be great. I don't know, man. That's a lot of babyface versus babyface matches, though. I think Cena and Rey as tag team partners is fine. Because I would love to see Cena wrestle Dominic in a tag team situation, not as a singles match, because I don't think Dominic is strong enough as a singles character to really, deserve that. I think The Miz is also a person that I would like to see him wrestle again. I don't know if that's a singles match, though. It's not. The Miz just not on that level. But it is what it is. You think Cena worked with Drew when Drew was in the one-man band? Oh, shit. That was a long time ago. That was a really long time ago. I would cry if Cena had to wrestle Johnny Gargano. I would openly weep in public. A Cena versus RVD surprise match would be an interesting callback to 2006. Yeah, but I don't think you can't recreate that energy. And fuck, Rob Van Dam's even older than Cena. He's even older than John. He's less active than John too. So, but I think it would be cool. It would be like a cool little match to have. But I think if you wanted to, I think his farewell tour should be a mixture of playing the classics and also making new ones. That's why I think he should wrestle like a Logan Paul or somebody like that, rather than just wrestle a bunch of his old friends. But I definitely don't want him in there with fucking NXT dudes and dudes that are barely over, him trying to carry them. It's like he's too old for that, bro. It's like just do something quick. If you have to put him in there like Dominic Mysterio or Braun Breaker or Ilya Dragunov, just put him in a tag team match. And put some of those guys either on his team or on the other team and call it a day. Drew worked with Cena in 2019. Did you Google that? Because there's no way I don't remember that shit at all. Cena got a good list of rivals and fresh opponents to have his final outing, and it would be a shame if Triple H wasted on DIY. What would be funny is if Triple H decided to wrestle Cena himself. That would be sick. I wouldn't want that because I wouldn't want Triple H to croak in the fucking ring. But maybe Kevin Owens gets one of those matches because Triple H really likes him. Maybe Sami Zayn gets one of those matches because Triple H really likes him. I think Gunther could probably carry one of those joints. Gunther versus John Cena could be money. It really could. If he's going to wrestle, let's say you have to pick him to wrestle one or two people he's never wrestled before, then Bryan and Gunther are probably the two guys that I would pick. Those are pay-per-view worthy matches. They're not SummerSlam or Royal Rumble matches or WrestleMania matches, but they're big. I think Gunther versus Cena in Saudi or something like that could be money. Ric Flair almost died in the last match he had. And I think he said he fainted from dehydration or something like that. People just being completely and totally, it's elder abuse to let Ric Flair continue to do public stuff. After just seeing that commercial, he kissed that old lady. I was like, bro, call it a day for him on Ric Flair, man. He's time for him to retire. Cena versus Bryan Danielson at Wrestle Kingdom. Let's get stupid. Right, Cena versus Tanahashi. Why not? Let's just go dumb. What? Call Marufuji again. Shit, you were supposed to be calling old guys. Get Kenta. Good old Hideo Itami. Who's worse, Monet or Pockets? Well, I can't look. Mercedes is bad. All right, she's too full of herself and things ain't working out. But she's not Orange Cassidy. I mean, let's just be. Orange Cassidy is the shits. It's 5 years of gimmick. I can't take it. Can't take no more of it. All right, so it's 10 o'clock. It's time to wrap this thing up. All right. Thank you guys for stopping by, man. I appreciate it. Talk to you guys later. Cena versus Big Show. Okay, now I'm really leaving. Yeah, Flair, he said he has also said he was dehydrated. He also said he had a heart attack. Neither one of those things feel true to me because if he had a heart attack, they'd have to end that thing. Dehydrated, yes. He also said he was about to drink after the match, even though he was dehydrated. He was about to drink alcohol. And Undertaker had to take the alcohol from him. Flair he's known to exaggerate, but he's not like Hulk Hogan or The Rock, where he's like the biggest liar of all time. But whatever he was going through in that final match was sad, and he should not have even been in it. And he shouldn't have even been anywhere near it. But he claimed he was dehydrated. And he looked like he was dead at one point. So that was very sad. MJF versus Cena would be money. It would be something or other. You just have to see that in the video game because I don't think MJF's going to make it. I don't think he's going to make it unless he get fired. All right. I'll talk to you guys later.